Does aggression in sport not translate off of the pitch then?
Opposing leads to the research made about sport being a good way to channel aggression, Tenenbaum et al. 1997, as well as McKelvey and Stout 2002, found that football and rugby, which are two very popular contact sports, have actually been identified as more likely to trigger aggression both on and off of the pitch. This shows that this type of aggression through sport can be looked at in two different ways, and this can even be based down to the individual's personalities. Is it just that players who choose to take part in football and rugby are naturally more aggressive and unstable? If these players didn't get to channel their aggression on the pitch, would they be even more violent off of the pitch?
What do psychologists think about the reasons for this aggression?
Well, psychologists have come up with four main theories about aggression. These are instinct theory, social learning theory, frustration-aggression hypothesis, and aggressive cue hypothesis. The first being instinct theory, which says that aggression is a natural characteristic that all humans have, and it's part of our genetics. This originated from Darwinism and his theory of survival of the fittest. Years ago, we had to fight for survival, which is where this natural instinct comes from. It was first investigated by Freud 1920 and then by Lorenz 1966. Linking to Darwinism, they found that we had genetic instincts to be sexual and aggressive, which was animalistic and for survival. It links into the psychodemic approach that the trait of violence lies within everyone's id. Aggression often builds up inside of us and becomes dangerous. During sport, this aggression can be released or expressed. This theory also suggests that behaviour is always predictable. These feelings of aggression are acted upon either by displacement or sublimation. If acted on by displacement, then these urges are acted upon but at a different target, for example, a football, rather than the real cause of the anger, and sport can be formed of displacement aggression. An example would be if somebody's had a bad day at work or at home, they can go to the gym and hit a punch bag for 10 minutes and feel much better afterwards. Their aggression from work has been directed somewhere else, but still gives them the same feeling of release. If acted on by sublimation, these urges are transformed into something socially acceptable. These feelings of aggression are usually redirected in sports that require control and finesse. It can also be released in art forms of creativity. If the same person had a bad day at work and chose to go to the golf course or play some archery, this would be a form of sublimation. This release of aggression is referred to as catharsis. Freud suggested that levels of aggression in sport would decrease as people got the chance to let go of their anger. However, Berkowitz 1972 said that levels of aggression actually tended to increase, not decrease. No innate aggressive characteristics have been found, and there is no support found for catharsis. Aggressive sport players often don't show the same aggressive characteristics in society away from their sport, which just shows that these levels of anger are brought out within and are caused by the sport. Another theory being the frustration-aggression hypothesis, which is just as it sounds. If an individual is blocked from achieving their goal, it will lead to a build-up of aggression. If this aggression is channeled correctly through assertion, the performer will see success and feel catharsis. However, if this aggression is channeled wrongly and the individual ends up breaking the rules, then a punishment will follow, which may even lead to a greater frustration. Dollard et al. 1939 stated that aggression occurs because frustration arises due to a goal blockage. Then every time a player becomes frustrated, this will always cause aggression. This theory related to the interactionalist approaches as the environment has triggered the aggressive personality trait. An example may be during gameplay in netball. A player may be blocking you consistently from being able to shoot properly. If you then make the shot, you'll feel very positive because despite all of the challenges you faced, you've still managed to do what you needed to do. However, if she continues to block you and your team started to lose, you may lose your temper and end up being punished. This theory has little support due to insistence that frustration will always cause aggression. It doesn't account for individual differences and use of coping strategies to deal with these feelings of frustration. It also doesn't account for this aggression being learned. The third type of theory is the aggressive cue hypothesis, where an athlete becomes so frustrated that it creates a readiness for aggression. However, for this aggression to appear, a certain stimulus must be present, or a trigger. It builds upon the frustration aggression hypothesis according to Berkowitz 1969. Frustration does not assuredly lead on to aggressive behavior, and proposed that frustration created a readiness for aggression. This aggression is believed to lead to an increased level of arousal. For example, this could be a foul on a teammate which is followed by jeering from the crowd, causing an athlete to then act out. Similarly, if a fight breaks out between 2 or 3 people, then others will begin to join in on the pitch because they are full of this aggressive cue due to pent-up anger. The fourth and final theory is the social learning theory. The social learning theory is based off an idea that we learn all of our characteristics by watching and copying people. Bandura 1966 suggested that all behavior is learned, nurtured through environmental aspects, and is reinforced behaviors. In 1973, Bandura then suggested that aggressive behavior away from sport is more likely to be demonstrated by those involved or interested in sport which allows contact. This is in comparison to Conroy et al. 2001, who found that athletes who participated in non-contact sports did not perceive acts of aggression to be tolerable in the way that individuals who participated in contact sports did. It is known as vicarious experience, which means that you're living your experiences through somebody else's, so you're seeing somebody else do something and you feel those same emotions through it. If a fight is being cheered and encouraged, then it is a sense enforcing that this is correct behavior, and it encourages whoever may be involved to carry on. Aggression becomes an accepted mode of behavior if reinforced, and it is more likely to be reproduced if it is part of the social and cultural norms of the group. The same way trait theory is opposing to social learning theory, the instinct theory and social learning theory sort of counteract each other. This theory suggests that aggression is learned particularly at a young age while watching sports either on the TV or at a match. The idea that we can also learn non-aggressive acts, unlearn aggression, and discourage it by showing positive role models. This theory has been criticised as people do not always copy what they see, and good behaviour can be copied as well as bad. If they can see that the reaction to this aggression is a negative one, then people won't always copy the behaviour that's being shown. If they know this form of behaviour is punished rather than rewarded, then why would they choose to copy it?
Are coaches supposed to be aware of how to deal with this aggression if it appears?
Coaches should learn what stimuli will lead towards aggressive behaviour in their players. They should be able to identify events with aggressive meaning or rivalry, equipment relating to aggression, others being aggressive, which lowers an athlete's restraint, aggressive disposition, high levels of arousal or anger, and previous gratifications from aggression. For the coach, it becomes a vital part of their strategy when managing an athlete to assess for situations which could be contributing towards aggressive behaviour. For a developing athlete, a coach may assess a situation and remove them from a game to give opportunity to learn from the situation and any cues manifested. Coaches should eventually be able to prevent aggressive situations from occurring by either preventing the situation or by controlling their athlete or team. During game situation, coaches have been well known to run onto pitches to stand in between players to calm them and prevent angry outbursts.
Are there strategies that can be used to prevent these athletes from becoming aggressive or help them deal with aggression?
There are many different ways that aggression can be dealt with by players, coaches, or others. Players can use methods like imagery, mental rehearsal, positive self-talk, counting to 10, distancing themselves from aggressive cues, or by facing harsh penalties like bans or fines. It is common to watch athletes clench their fists, close their eyes, and walk away from situations. This is a common way to cool down after a situation. If they can take their mind to a different place and focus on something else, then this can help them forget about the situation at hand. If these behaviours consistently appear, then the harsh penalties can snap an athlete back to reality. If they know in their mind that they face the possibility of being banned from a few games, they're more likely to control themselves. Coaches also have a large responsibility in helping the athlete deal and channel their aggression. Often giving the aggressor roles of responsibility can help them put their energy into something more worthwhile. They should emphasize non-aggressive role models that young people can look up to and aspire to be. They should punish aggressive behaviours, either formally by game bans or pulling their athletes for time out and replacing them. The techniques that individual players are using are often taught to them by the coaches, and when used well, this should be positively reinforced. If children and even adults alike are rewarded by handling a situation well, they're more likely to repeat this. Other people like fans, referees, and governing bodies also have a major role in keeping aggression levels low. Officials should apply rules strictly and consistently so they can't be considered unfair and everybody is treated equally. If aggression levels are continually high, they can install more CCTV or members of staff. This often happens to control rowdy members of the public. At big games, fans of opposing teams are usually separated to control arguments from breaking out, and limits on alcohol and drugs are placed. If situations do become out of hand, there should be clear communication between police and sporting organisers. If, for example, during a rugby match, a player is tackled to the ground by the same player several times throughout the game, it is the referee's responsibility to make sure that the correct punishment is given. If there is anything unfair about these tackles, it is the player's responsibility to then make sure that they control themselves from getting aggressive at the individual who keeps tackling them, and this will prevent them from being punished. It is then the coach's responsibility to give advice and reinforce relaxation techniques.
Thank you for speaking about aggression today, Charlotte.
Thanks.